Just a few years ago, it seemed that the main archaeological discoveries were made by individuals with metal detectors. The passion for walking in nature in search of ancient treasures has turned into a special field and a cultural phenomenon. However, recently, people with metal detectors have been pushed aside by construction workers. Such a turn of events was predictable. The huge number of ongoing and planned construction projects means a huge amount of dug-up land in which there is always something buried, from 400,000-year-old elephants to treasures worthy of the British crown. Hello, friend. You're watching the Kurtop channel. Tunnel. There have long been legends about underground passages in the center of Dnipro. But what if they are real? Workers were building the subway in the city of Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine in 2018 when they accidentally discovered a mysterious tunnel. Of course, it wasn't on any maps and the builders were not prepared for such a turn of events. Later, it turned out that the workers had uncovered the main drainage channel from the time of Catherine II's reign. Moreover, ancient artifacts were also found. This was not the first discovery of old tunnels underground. While laying sewer pipes in 1914, ancient weapons and two skeletons were found in a tunnel near the Potemkin Palace. Most likely, these were fallen soldiers. Interestingly, 12 regiments were involved in the construction of Yekaterinoslav, but after it was completed, only some of them returned to their previous service. Where the others went and what they did remains unknown. A strange box in China. Strange? Builders in Taizhou, China, were working, widening the roadway, when they suddenly came across something unusual in the ground. Strangely enough, no one knew what it could be. Whatever it was clearly older than the city itself. Soon, they began digging around the find to figure out what it was. But as soon as they realized what they had stumbled upon, they immediately understood that they needed additional help. In the city of Taizhou, China, during road repairs, an ancient object was found at a depth of 6 feet. What they had been digging up for several hours was not just a box. They realized this a little later. The workers guessed that it was a tomb. They called archaeologists for further excavation. They were lucky to uncover the grave without breaking its seal. At first glance, it seemed that there was linen, silk, and some strange liquid inside. But as soon as they looked closer, they discovered something else. Inside was a body. It was not just a body, but a mummy. Archaeologists determined that 700 years ago, the mummy was that of a woman. After studying the contents of the grave, the jewelry, and the way the body was wrapped, archaeologists determined that this woman was from the Ming dynasty. The body was so well preserved that it was easy to remove it from the grave. Most of the fabric was also excellently preserved. If you look closely, you can even see her facial features. Look at how well her shoes have been preserved. It's incredible. Many people forget that China is much older than, for example, the United States. China's history spans thousands of years. Cases like this are not uncommon here. Just imagine you could find a 2,000-year-old mummy near your parking spot. A house from centuries past. In 1985, archaeologists descended underground with special excitement alongside the subway builders, where, during the construction of the Borovitskaya metro station in Moscow, a small red brick house was discovered at a depth of 6 meters. Everything inside was preserved in its original state, not just the walls, but also the furnishings, dishes, and furniture. Historians determined that the building dates back to the mid-16th century and once belonged to the village of Staroye Vagankovo. Yuri Supernenko, in his book Legends and Tales of Underground Moscow, writes that this structure was part of an Oprichnina compound, which sank underground as a result of a natural disaster, a luxurious villa at a depth of 12 meters. For several years now, they haven't been able to finish building a new metro line in Rome. Archaeologists are getting in the way. In early March, Italian researchers presented another sensational discovery to the press. At the Imba Aradam Iponio station, which has been under construction since 2013, remains of a domus were discovered at a depth of 12 meters, a luxurious urban villa from the 2nd century. This discovery is a continuation of findings from previous years. In 2016, at the same construction site, at a depth of 9 meters, archaeologists unearthed an army barracks built at the beginning of the 2nd century during the reign of Emperor Hadrian. It was a building with an area of 1,200 square meters, with a long central corridor and 39 rooms each about 4 by 4 meters in size. Most likely, these were soldiers' sleeping quarters. In each of these rooms, with an area of only 16 square meters, 6 or more people could be accommodated. The interior decoration of the rooms was modest, in keeping with army standards. Only in the officers' area were the floors covered with simple black and white mosaics, and the walls decorated with plain frescoes. Even then, scientists assumed that the barracks were part of a larger complex. But what kind? The answer lay below, at a depth of 12 meters. The barracks were connected to the very luxurious mansion that archaeologists are now talking about. Remnants of a staircase leading from the domus to the barracks were also found. We couldn't have imagined that we would find a mansion here with an inner courtyard, a fountain, and at least 14 rooms, said Simona Moretta, the scientific director of the excavation. According to archaeologists, the mansion was built at the beginning of the 2nd century, at the same time as the barracks. But later, the domus was expanded and its interior decoration was changed. The barracks, discovered in 2016, turned out to be part of a larger complex. But what kind of complex was it? And who did the luxurious mansion belong to? The media have already dubbed the villa the House of the Centurion, and journalistic nicknames usually stick in people's memory, even if they're not accurate. A centurion is too low a rank for the owner of such a wealthy mansion. A pot of money and more. While digging a tunnel for the future Novokuznetskaya station in Moscow, a large pot was found. Inside it were almost 20,000 silver coins from the early reign of Peter the Great, at the end of the 17th century, and the fossilized remains of ancient animals, birds, and fish are almost constant finds for subway builders. The skeletons and traces belong to the Cretaceous, Jurassic, Carboniferous, and even Cambrian periods more than 500 million years ago. Leather with a dragon. In England, engineers from the Northern Power Grid Company discovered a richly decorated fragment of a leather item while working in the village of Oldwork. It may be medieval. The artifact depicts a dragon or another mythological creature. However, the leather creature doesn't look particularly menacing and resembles Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon more than a deadly Targaryen pet. And if you look closely, the creature embossed on the piece of leather is not a dragon, but another mythological animal, a wyvern. The term wyvern was once suggested by the famous writer Andrzej Sapkowski, the author of The Witcher, since there is no equivalent to the English word wyvern in Slavic languages. It refers to a two-legged dragon. 2 legs instead of 4 is the main difference between a wyvern and a classic dragon, which is supposed to have all 4 legs. The item found is truly rare and interesting, and not only because it suggests there might be a rich burial site somewhere nearby. The most intriguing thing about this piece of leather is the dragon depicted on it, a wyvern, and its preliminary dating to the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages is a very general term for a very long and very diverse period. During this time, attitudes toward dragons and the symbolism of this image underwent radical changes, and more than once. The Romans, Saxons, Vikings, representatives of these cultures viewed dragons differently, the way we would see it today, with deep respect rather than one-sided hostility. Such complex creatures as dragons have always been complex figures. Ordinary medieval people, however, were very afraid of dragons, not so much for religious reasons, but more because of their everyday concerns. Who would like it if a dragon's urine released in flight caused rot and decay of human flesh when it landed on the skin? In this context, the wyvern image found in Oldwork, embossed on a leather artifact, becomes of particular interest to researchers. To which era of the Middle Ages does it belong? Which artistic style does it correspond to? Where was it made? Who did it belong to? A small 2-legged dragon can tell archaeologists a big and very unusual story. A treasure from the time of Ivan the Terrible in Pavlovsky Posad. In the summer of 2018, archaeologists discovered a treasure from the time of Ivan the Terrible, thanks to the construction of a highway in Pavlovsky Posad. The find dates back to the early 17th century. It is a ceramic vessel with 623 silver coins, the first large peasant hoard of its kind. The most amazing thing for scientists was that the treasure was found intact, exactly where its owner buried it 400 years ago. Most of the peasants' savings consist of new coins that had not yet been in circulation. In total, archaeologists found 6 rubles and 23 kopecks in the stash. Before the time of troubles, this was enough money to build a house or buy a workhorse and a cow. Researchers suggest that the wealth came to the owner as a result of a successful deal. Besides the coins, there was a small copper cross in the vessel, which most likely was meant to protect the treasure from strangers. Tunnel to the afterlife. In Mexico, under a busy street, workers unexpectedly stumbled upon a secret tunnel with amazing carvings from the Aztec era. One of the workers, during the preparatory work for building a bus stop, discovered the remains of an underground structure that had remained untouched since ancient times. After this incredible discovery, construction work was immediately stopped, and Mexican archaeologists were invited to the site. According to researchers, the underground passage was built by the Aztecs back in the 15th century, during the reign of Emperor Montezuma I. Inside the tunnel, scientists came across ancient items made of majolica, porcelain, and glass. As the archaeologists explained, the tunnel, decorated with carvings and paintings, was dedicated to the Aztec god of fertility and water, Tlaloc. The researchers noted that the mysterious structure found by the workers in Mexico was conceived by Montezuma as part of a ritual passage to the world of the dead, a realm the Aztecs believed in. As usual, I just ask you to rate the video with a thumbs up or down. Share this video with your friends. Let's explore our history together. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.